You will learn how to perform RAG, Retrieval Augmented Generation, not using code, but using a Visual Designer in Azure AI Studio. The complete RAG flow will look like this. So typically we have multiple steps for creating the chunks, saving the chunks into an Azure AI search, creating the embedding, then performing the search within the AI document, and then passing the user question and the relevant documents into the Azure OpenAI model. This flow could be implemented by using code, but also it could be done by using Azure AI Studio. Let's first get to understand what is Azure AI Studio. As in Microsoft line of products, we have VS Code or Visual Studio Code for developers. AI Studio is intended to be used by the AI engineers. If you want to work with LLM models in Azure, then Azure AI Studio is your tool. It will help you to write the code, use the LLM models, use prompt flow, perform LLM ops, perform, as we'll do today, the retrieval augmented generation RAG, vectorize your data, import your data into AI Studio, and add safety and security into your AI models. Azure AI Studio supports lots of LLM models, like the one provided by OpenAI, like ChatGPT, some models provided by Meta, like the Llama models, other ones provided by Hugging Face, like Falcon, or the ones provided by NVIDIA, like Nemotron. And there is a lot more, like the ones provided by Microsoft, which is Phi 2 and Phi 3 models. So what to do in this video is that we want to perform RAG in Azure AI Studio. We'll be guided through a user interface, so we'll need to go to the chat window from Project Playground, and from there we'll go to add your data, and then here we can follow the steps in order to add the required components. So that data will be used next by the LLM model in order to give you a more accurate response. RAG integrated in Azure AI Studio will perform actually 3 steps. First step is creating the chunks. In this step, it will go to split the provided documents into smaller chunks. It will use its own algorithm in order to chunk the markdown files or the PDF files or the text or the Word files or the HTML files into smaller chunks. And then it will go to save those chunks into a database that supports saving documents and that also supports saving the vectors or the embedded vectors. And that database that will be used is Azure AI Search. So for that, it will need to provision or use an existing Azure AI Search. And for Azure AI Search to save those chunks, it will need to create an index. So we create an index that supports those documents. And then as the last step here, we'll go to upload the chunks, and it will also go to create the vector embeddings for each chunk, and that will be done using OpenAI embedding model. So for each chunk, it will have its own vector or its own embedding vector. Follow me in the next demonstration to see how this works. In this demonstration, we'll perform RAG Retrieval Augmented Generation in Azure AI Studio. From Azure AI Studio, we'll go to add your data right here, and then we'll follow the required steps that will go through three different steps, which are creating the chunks, creating the AI search index, and then uploading the chunks and the embeddings into Azure AI Search. Let's see how this works. So I'll switch back here to my Azure portal where I have already created the required resources right here. So I should have Azure Search Service. You should create one, and you should create Azure AI Services Hub that is linked to your Azure AI Services. And with the creation of the hub, actually you will get a key vault and storage account that will be created automatically. Along with that, you will need also to create a project and also attach it to the hub. So you can create these resources manually from the Azure portal, as I have showed in a previous video in this course, or you can simply go to use this PowerShell script from here. You can find it in this GitHub repository, where here we will go through the different steps where it will go to create the required resource group, the search service, the cognitive services, this is the AI service, and then it will go to create the deployments. So here we'll need to create 2 deployments, one for ChatGPT and a second deployment for text embedding. Then next it will go to create the hub from the ML workspace. Note here the kind is hub, and then it will create another type of resource that is a project. And then next we'll create the connection.yaml file. This is the file that should be used in order to establish the connection between the hub and the Azure AI Studio. Once you have all your resources created successfully, you can navigate to the Azure AI services, and from here you get the link for go to Azure AI Studio, and then from here we can go navigate to the deployments, and here we can see our ChatGPT 4 model and the text embedding 3 large model. To start with simplified RAG, we can go to the chat window, and from here we can see this button that we have here, add your data. We can click there, and then we can go to add a new data source, and then we can go through the 3 different required steps to achieve this. So first step is specifying the data source. So the data source could be here any type of documents that could be Markdown, HTML, Word, PDF, PowerPoint presentations, or even images. So these documents should be saved somewhere. They could be in Azure AI Search or saved within the data right here in Azure AI Studio, or they could be within an Azure Blob Storage. They could be in a public endpoint available on the internet, or we can also simply upload our files from the AI Studio directly. And that's what we'll do here for simplicity. For our demonstration, we'll go to work with the documentation of Azure AI services that is available on this link, where we have all of this documentation. Actually, this documentation is available as markdown files within the Microsoft official documentation GitHub repository. So for each document right here, it's a markdown file that contains some markdown. So we'll take all of these markdowns and use it as an input for our RAG flow. How you can get those markdown files? Either you can go to download this entire repository, or to make it easier for you, I've created this GitHub repository that contains the data, Azure AI docs, and from here you can find all of these markdown files on this path. So just go to download this repository into your local machine. That's what I have done in my machine. And of course, if you want for this demonstration, you can use your own documents. If you have a book or if you have some other documents you want to explore, then feel free to use your own documents. That should not break the demonstration. So as we have chosen to upload our files right here, we'll go to upload really those files. So we can either upload a file or folders. I'll go select all of these files, go to open them. They will be uploaded into Azure AI Studio. You can see the files getting uploaded. Let's give it a few seconds to complete or to finish the upload. Once the upload finishes, we can see here the next button will appear. So we'll click next, and there we'll go to the second part, which is indexing those documents. What will happen here is that those documents will be chunked and they will be indexed and saved into a database that supports saving documents and also saving the vectors. And that database will be Azure AI Search. So from here, we are required to provide an Azure AI Search service. Remember that we have already created Azure AI Search available right here. So I'll go to select that existing one. So I click here and then I say connect other AI Search resource. And from here, I can find my AI Search. I'll click add connection. If you don't have any, then this template will ask you to create a new AI Search for you. Then we need to provide a name for our index that will be created within Azure AI Search. Let's call this one, for example, index.docs. And then next, this RAG flow or the operations that will be processed for creating the chunks, for uploading the documents, for creating the vectors, and so on, they will be performed on a virtual machine. That virtual machine could be one of these VMs actually. So from here, you can choose one of the hundreds of virtual machine SKUs available in Azure, where here you have all the sizes, and you can also choose VM from the recommended options. Those are VMs that will perform better than the general images. Note that each VM will have its own cost. And we have a third option that is auto select. So here we'll let Azure AI Search or Azure AI Services to choose the right VM for us. For simplicity, let's choose that option. Then we'll navigate to the next step, which is the search settings, where here we need to provide a model, an embedding model that will perform the vectorization of the chunks that will be provided to Azure AI Search. So as we said in RAG, each chunk would have its own vector embedding. That vector will be used in order to search the documents. That's optional, as you can see right here. You can disable it, but for RAG, it's really appreciated and it's really useful and efficient to use vector searching. So here we need to provide an embedding model, and the embedding model that is used today by Azure AI Studio is text embedding ADA002. We have a new embedding models and supported in Azure AI Studio, but for today it's limited to this old model. For this demonstration, it do the stuff actually. So we'll use it. But keep an eye on this. Maybe on future versions of AI Studio, you might see the new model that will appear here. So just select that new one. So this means that here Azure AI Studio will create a new text embedding model, and it will use it to create the vectors. I'm okay with that. So I'll go to the next section, which here is the reviewing of the configuration. Once that config is correct, then we can go to create, and here the RAG flow will start running. So note here we have first step is to create the chunks. For that, it will need first to allocate the compute resources. So this is creating the required virtual machines that will run this flow. Note that those VMs will be deleted once the flow is completed. This will take a few minutes, so I'll pause here and we'll complete later. Once step 1 is completed, that is the cracking and chunking for the documents, it will move to the step number 2, which is creating the Azure AI Search Index. Once that's completed, it will move now to the third step and last step, that is registering the index. Once all finished, now you can see that here you have your index that is configured successfully. And this index was created into the Azure AI Search. So if I go here to the Azure Search service and then navigate to Search Management Indexes, you should see the index that we have created, index docs. If we refresh a few seconds later, we can see that here we have 539 documents uploaded, and this is 15 megabytes of data. If I click on the index, then here we can search this index directly from within search service. So if I ask a question like what is RAG, for example, and hit search, then I'll get the result, and those results are the documents from which Azure AI Search performed that search. So as you see here, for each document, we get the name of the document, its title, and its content vector. And of course, here we get multiple documents. The second one is this one here, and so on. Great, so our documents are chunked and are vectorized into Azure AI Search. Now let's go back to the Azure AI Studio, and from here, if we navigate to the chat, then we select the LLM model that we want to use, like ChatGPT 4o, for example, and make sure that the index is selected, and then here we can choose one of these search options. I'll continue with hybrid that will use vector plus keyword searches, and then I'll go to ask ChatGPT a question. So that could be, for example, what is RAG? So note here ChatGPT will answer my question based on the documents that it found saved inside my Azure AI Search. So it will pick the relevant documents that talks about RAG, and then it will generate a definition for RAG based on those documents. And as you see within the references, we can see the file that it used to get that information, and that is customizing LLMs. I can open that file on this window here, and we can view the content of that file. Great, and that was how to perform RAG in Azure AI Studio. Thank you.